Yes, it is. All right. Number 4. Here we go. Yes, indeed. We are here to have a casual conversation about community-based organizations really in general, collaborating with systems, whatever systems means to you. And that could be all kinds of things. And just so you know what we're doing with these casual conversations, we're collecting them really it's a sneaky way of doing a survey with you folks and getting good information to compile it together. And hopefully, we take these recordings, we post them, we share them. And the purpose is that people can get value out of the things they hear, hear us say, the people like you all that are here right now. You are the experts in this. So I thank you. Thank you, Amanda. We've been doing this number 4 here, having greater impact when systems and community-based organizations collaborate. 100% a believer in that. And amplifying impact. What that means, the power of collaboration between systems and community-based organizations, aka SIBOs.
SIBOs, I like that.
I just made that up right now. SIBO was probably like not one of the best rappers I listened to as a kid. he had all the wrong things to tell me to do. But anyway,
right.
SIBO. Can you see Amanda?
Yes.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yep, I got you. Yeah, and just don't mind my voice. I'm just getting over being sick, so I'm gonna be a little raspy today. So if you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll get a little bit closer. Yeah, so this is like Armand said, this is series 4. Welcome, Derek. We saw you slide in there. Good to see you. So today we're going to be talking about the importance of collaboration. I mean, we've been talking about it for the past 3 sessions, but really looking at how collaboration brings together diverse perspectives, resources, strengths, etc. And when all that's combined, it really amplifies the ability to address complex community challenges, which can be challenging in itself when you do have, a wide range of diverse opinions and perspectives. So it's really looking at how can you collaborate and bring strengths together, and not have those clash. Because I think we've all been in situations where, we want to collaborate, but someone's got this opinion or that opinion, and it gets really loud really quickly. So how can you really collaborate and look at the important topics that you need to talk about and how can they get really implemented in the community? I think that's, for me, the most important element that I look at.
Yeah, as you're talking, one situation pops into my mind, and it was more on the negative side with particular with probation. But then again, that same group of people, we've had have positive collaborations. So it is making me think that it's possible to work with the same group of people depending on different situations differently, if that makes sense. Like we weren't able to collaborate on this one thing, but these several other things we were. So I guess that's I don't like the saying, but I'll use it. We have a lot of violent sayings in America, but don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. So just because this one particular situation might not have been synergetic and for you two, the two orgs or whatever systems and community based, doesn't mean that I'll never deal with them. Never again. You can mess yourself up like that. And and it wasn't bad and negative. Like we weren't fighting and yelling. It was just, we didn't see, our missions didn't align with what we wanted on the outcome of this one particular youth program and the way we had to report back and things that just didn't go in alignment with the mission of my organization at the time. So respectfully, and grant funding was there and it was funded, but had to walk away from money because the alignment wasn't necessarily intact. But I'm grateful for, not letting one situation of, okay, we can't collaborate here, stop us from doing great work, which we have done in the future, you know, in other situations. So that just popped into my head. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And what about you, Jamie or Derek? You want to chime in on this?
I really like that point that you just brought up, Armand, because I think that that is really important. In my experience, I know personally in the beginning stages of my advocacy, I was like one bad bite, and I'm like, I'm good off of any type of collaboration, any type of attempt to rehabilitate like those relationships. But I agree that as moving forward, I think that we're never going to be 100% on the same page as another organization, right? Because every organization was created and built off of an individual's idea or passion or purpose, right? So nothing's ever going to be fully in alignment. And with that, there is a reputation that organizations want to uphold for themselves. And so one area may not be in alignment. Well, the next could very much benefit a whole lot of people. And I think that walking away from that, like I got a bad taste about you guys, or I didn't like how you personally made me feel, not even like professionally, but I didn't like how you personally made me feel. I took that and applied that to the business aspect. And you can't really do that. You know, you got to leave your personal feelings at the door sometimes and understand that everybody has their own lane for a reason. And I think growing professionally and maturing professionally requires you to be able to step outside of that box and be like, okay, like maybe I don't even like you as a person or an individual, but I can see that collaboration is going to create the best outcome. And that's what ultimately we should be wanting if we're working in this field is we want the best for the people that we're serving, right? We want the best possibility for them. So if that's truly what I'm trying to do, then I got to kind of put my feelings to the side. So I really like that you brought that up. And people all have, every organization has its strengths, right? And so being able to constantly come back to the drawing board of like, okay, where can these people fit in and where can I support them and they can mutually support me? I think that's a really good point. So I just wanted to, I think that's my experience as well. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is like revisiting those ideas of who I'm willing to collaborate with and who I'm not comfortable collaborating with.
Right. And everybody does not, sorry, Derek, really quick. Everyone does not need to be invited to your kid's birthday party. You know, you can go work. I might not like you. We're not going to go have beers after this, but together we can go get this job done. Okay.
Yeah.
Derek, please chime in.
I just wanted to add, I'm in agreement with everything that's been said. Probably one of the challenges that I've faced is that in working with different individuals and organizations is that when we get involved in advocacy and in human trafficking, we're all under the naive impression that we're all working from the same playbook. And that's not the case in many instances. And it's really difficult. I'm up here in Ontario, Canada, and it's really, really difficult to forge meaningful collaborative relationships with mutual respect, because as you mentioned, we all have different strengths and weaknesses, whether that's from a funding perspective or even a skill set. And as long as we can kind of respect one another's perspective and strengths and resources that we have and work collaboratively together, I think we're all stronger. But boy, that's a really tough hill to climb sometimes. And again, especially as for me, as I'm bringing new people on board, that that are moved for whatever the reason, they want to volunteer, they want to help, and they want to be part of the solution. And oftentimes their feelings get hurt pretty quickly and discouraged very quickly. And this isn't what I signed up for. And I find that kind of hard to navigate sometimes and try to keep all this plate spinning and everybody motivated and moving forward in the same direction.
I think if just like you said, bringing people on board, if like myself, I'll speak on about me. If I had this education when I first jumped into this, I learned it or eventually over the years. But had I known this at the beginning, I wouldn't have took a lot of things as personal as I did, as if this entity, this organization, this person was attacking me when maybe we just had a difference of opinion about one thing. And we don't need, well, of course, even amongst your own organization, everyone's not going to agree on everything. That's humanity. That's human beings. We're not going to agree on everything. but rather than focus on where we're different, and instead focused on where we did have commonalities, did have synergy, and work on that. You know, I definitely, definitely, I've learned that over the years. Yesterday, in a group that I'm a part of, was recommended, haven't read it yet, but it was strongly recommended by several individuals, a book that's called How to Work with Almost Everyone. Like, I don't know if it's, I believe a new release, but it's called How to Work with Almost Everyone. And just I'm
Who's
gonna
the author?
exact. I didn't write it down. I just looked at my notes, like I didn't write it down, but I'm sure. Look, my best friend Google.
You gonna give us a half resource?
No. This is so
No, I'm just kidding.
You have to do some homework. Okay, so
okay, all right.
So I want you to go visit Google and type that in.
I'm like really spelling it out. G-O-O. Did you see
I
my
was
lips?
too. I was like, what is that?
Exactly. Google.
I was about to go on my notes and type it. G-O-O.
Get your pens out, everyone. All right. So defining systems and community-based organizations. Thank you. Systems. Broadly, these are structured arrangements in a society in community which govern, guide, or provide services, educational, health, legal systems. I believe we all understand that as far as systems. CBOs, the public and private nonprofit organizations that operate within a local community to provide services and address specific local needs. Even just that CBO. I've had CBOs fight about who's a CBO. What is community-based? Are you community-based because you're located in the community of concern? But all of these are communities. We can get tangled up if we want to. We can be tangled up in differences. Or we can work, like I just said, work on commonalities. But anybody have any different definition of, when you hear systems, what does that mean to you, Amanda? What does systems mean to you? Anything different?
Yeah, I'd probably, I mean, just maybe go beyond like the govern piece. There's just like, there's policies and laws, which, is included in governing a society. But that's like mostly what I see is like, how can we shift policies and legislation and procedures to really be more restorative, just for me and in my perspective. So that's the only thing I would add with systems are the policies that, go behind a system. But everything else that's written here as well.
Anybody have any differences other than what's here? Derek, Jamie, on what a CBO means to you or system?
I mean, to me, when I hear the word system, just on a personal level, I just think of any entity that, like Amanda said, has policy and procedure to keep us in check, pretty much. Like anything that's going to keep us in form of alignment to make sure that we are abiding and keeping some type of structure in the community and in our daily lives. Like that's kind of what I think of as systems, and more so, my mind automatically goes to the legal system, judicial system, and things, the systems in place that have negatively impacted me versus looking at the systems on a broader system, on a broader scale, because technically, community-based organizations, that's a system in place to help produce any type of outcome. So I think opening your mind to not taking out your unique lived experience, but also adding in that there may be other experiences and other ways to view things in place, has really helped me kind of grow to be willing to work with systems and be able to work with and come alongside with and collaborate with entities that I otherwise wouldn't have any interest in collaborating with.
Does the name, when you hear, and maybe not as much now as maybe earlier on when you started your advocacy, but when you even heard system, does that bring a negative feeling?
Yeah, like
no.
we don't talk to them folks.
No,
we don't talk to them folks.
Right. So I think we all in the work we do must understand that, and we work with the populations that aren't in this world of acronyms like us and understanding of systems. When they hear systems, there's going to be that same negative vibe.
Right. So reframing that and restructuring that and having people that did have that we're not going over there initial feeling come in and be able to then advocate and say like, okay, like I feel you, but let me offer you another perspective, because not because I'm trying to tell you to convince you to believe anything, but because I'm just trying to share my experience with you to let you know that I felt the same way too. But now in hindsight, I could genuinely say and vouch for that it's okay to do da da da. And I think that that's helpful, because it's one thing for somebody who's within those systems to tell you, hey, trust us, like, hey, it's okay, like you could come on over here, like it's gonna be good, versus like somebody who had that initial like reaction of nah, I'm not doing all that, and to then come and say like, okay, it's safe over here, in a way that where you're educating and also and walking, like mentoring through the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's still like walking a fine line, because now you're the liaison and vouching for a system you don't control.
And if they drop the ball,
if they drop the ball, the finger's on you, because that same spill you just told me, I feel you, but this is what's gonna happen. Then I go there and I go to jail.
It's a lot of pressure, right? It's a lot of pressure to be a community liaison and like be a person that is trying to find that balance, like that bridge, that gap filler, it being that bridge, like that's I don't know, maybe that's a whole nother conversation for a whole another hour, but that's difficult to hold that weight. And I think that that's important to realize that a lot of these collaborations crumble because that liaison gets burnt out, and that liaison gets put in the middle, where now nobody is messing with me because I've been in the middle of the fire, and now everything blew up, and it can be all bad. So I think coming alongside supporting those community liaisons and representatives is really important as well, because I think there's a lot of pressure that is not talked about.
That sounds like a whole nother series about supporting those people.
That's what it sounded like as I was saying it out loud.
Derek,
one of the things that I've experienced is that many of these girls in particular expect us to fail them. And oftentimes that's out of our control. And that's those systems that we have to work within, oftentimes we're not as familiar with those systems as possibly we should be, or we haven't experienced them yet. So we expose the survivor to it, and then all of a sudden, through no fault of our own, and our hearts are in the right place, and through some naivety possibly or inexperience, we suggest that we can help them in a certain area where we get let down by another system which is out of our control. But it's just my experience that so often these girls just have a sense that you're going to let me down anyways. And it's almost a mistrust at going in, and it's so hard sometimes to build those relationships up because they're looking for any excuse to bolt. And I think a lot of people underestimate that, how tenuous that relationship is, that when we're working with survivors.
And
that's such a good perspective. I really appreciate that perspective.
And that goes for, like, I know you're Derek speaking specifically about like survivors of trafficking, and I'm thinking about, yes, for sure, it all carries over to any experience life of trauma. I'm thinking about some of the young men I work with who have specifically youth that were in the foster care system, that have been let down after let down after let down, and then they come to you, and then they're not even open, but they could almost already mentally expecting you to drop the ball, you to not be there. And then that back to that, we got to design this other conversation series, because that pressure
for real.
And recently, something that on the brink of one of my biggest burnout in doing this work, I had a young man really just like go off on me, yell at me, text me all kind of vicious stuff. He yelled at me. Luckily, it was on the phone. It was scary. Like, if I was in front of him and he had a weapon, I would have been hurt. And then 2 days later, he apologized tremendously, because it all stemmed off of me not getting, he didn't believe I was working hard enough to get him this job. And which I actually was doing over the weekend on my time. I wasn't communicating back and forth with this man, but I was. And it wasn't even necessarily my job and responsibility to get you this job. You're a grown-up, but I do that work. And when I come to realize was there's a lot of underlining issues, that fatherhood issues, missing dad. I have replaced that person, and now this pressure is on you to be. I don't know why I went there, but I think it came from dropping the, that expectancy of you to already fail them is there.
And then when you do, it's foundation for the person to be able to come and be like, told you so.
Told you so.
Now they get to correspond all community-based outreach or all advocates or all resources with their experience, with they really were setting you up to fail. And then vice versa, it burns out the advocate who is like, comes in with great intention and they're like gung-ho about this and like, I really have a heart for this, but then that slowly breaks you down as an advocate as well. So now we're not only burning out the population we're trying to serve, but we're also burning out the people that are willing and desiring to want to help that population and support that population. So you already know that sounds like in a few weeks we need to come back to that.
Yes,
for sure.
I've been there to where I'm like, I don't want to do this work anymore. There's too much pressure, and it's not like anyone gave it to me. I'm like, I'm the one owning this. I'm the one that said, bring me your problems. I got you. Let me help.
Literally.
Like, yeah, literally Facebook post. Hey, I'm the one to help with your problems. Bring them to me. And then I can't get mad when they bring them to you. Anyway.
For real.
No, I love that though. Jamie, just like, I feel like you like took us full circle from, the advocate and the liaison that deals with, the community-based organizations and then systems, and then the community-based organizations and the advocates that serve the population, right? So it really is a full circle. I've never really thought about it like that, because I deal with systems mostly, right? And I'm the one that gets kind of in the fire, but that's a really good point that any type of advocate or liaison there's burnout on all sides. So I definitely think that should be a full conversation for sure.
Hence the necessity and the importance of collaboration, because when you look at it, like we're in this world, right? Like we're in this community, we're in this resource world, this advocacy world, this whatever world we identify it as. We think that there's a whole bunch of people doing this work because that's all we know, right? Like that's all we come in contact with, because that's what the environment we're putting ourselves in. But if you look on a larger scale at this world, at the population of people, there's not a lot of people willing, and then two, being able to stick through those obstacles and those burdens and those, I don't want to say burdens, that's not the right word, but those things, those hardships that come into our life, that then we're continuously in this cycle. There's not a lot of us. We just think there are because we meet us all, right? Like we meet everybody that's doing it. Yeah. So I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, that shows the collaboration. Like we're not really, if you're in this for even any positive intent, we are all needed. We all do need each other, and therefore we have to be able to figure out how to support and pick each other up, and take down our own personal like barriers, and we forget we're in the midst of this, that we're not in battle with each other, because it can feel like that. It really feels like that sometimes, and sometimes you do have to put up those barriers to protect yourself, but we should be doing it as a community with the intent of like, we are here to help a certain demographic of people, a certain problem in the community, a certain issue that is arising. And I think that getting past that part is super important, first and foremost, because how do we care about the people that we're in this with if we're in battle with them, or we're in competition with them, or we're against them, or we feel like they're against us? So it needs, some's got to change, because there ain't that many of us out here.
Right.
We slowly are killing each other off, not anybody else.
Wow. You just, as much as we've talked about this, you just gave me a deeper urgency and understanding of why we need to collaborate. There isn't too many of us. And so shouts out to you all and the people out there that choose to do this work, because just think about your own personal friends. How many of your friends are doing this work? Nothing against them.
People that you didn't meet in this work. People that you didn't meet in this work. How many people that you know that you just like grew up with, like the homegirls or the homeboys that are just like, this is just what you do? Like, not that many. Because who does this?
I had one of my best childhood friends recently told me, he's like, Armand, you just changed on us and started doing this work, and I just watched, like, what is he doing? Why?
What is he doing?
This is not what we do. What are you doing? But always in support. But he was just like, he said, I just watched for years. Like, what, you were in circles you never were in before. You're talking to people he wouldn't have talked to. Why? But yeah, all love. I think we just tapped in on this. Go ahead, Amanda.
No, I mean, this kind of just rolls right into it. I'm almost even thinking, like, is there anything out there in the county, like an advocacy coalition or something? Like, I know that there's advocacy positions within each organization, but is there a, I know there's advocacy.
Who's the advocate for the advocates?
Yeah, like there's advocacy coalitions for like city budgets and all of that, but is there a group that could come together like on a system, I don't know, systems and CBOs, like who are the advocates that we could bring together? I don't know if that group exists, but you're just, yeah, Jamie, I think you popped open a huge thing for us here.
I'm going to slide to the next. So if you don't mind, I'll just read this really fast. Collaboration between systems and CBOs leverages the reach and resources of systems with the grassroots knowledge and trust that CBOs hold. Touched on that. A local health system partnering with the CBO can effectively address health disparities by combining the system's medical expertise and the CBO's understanding of the community's unique needs. I don't think any of us will disagree with that one. All right, we're talking about shared goals. Both parties must agree on common objectives for their partnerships. So yes, I just want to just reiterate what I said. You're not going to agree on everything. We know this. So concentrate and focus on where you do align and work on that. And you don't have to be completely in alignment with everything. That's, trust and mutual respect. Each party must respect the other's expertise and contributions. You are not the most important thing running around. And sometimes you feel like that. You feel
sometimes
like
you do. Sometimes you really do.
Let me raise my hand. Sometimes I felt like that. And it took an understanding in the past I have mentioned like that other issues weren't as important as the issue that was the most important to me. And that's not the case. And I'm so glad people are fighting for the SEALs down here. Because if there were no more SEALs, there's people who feel like the unsheltered population and fighting for their rights, and all these different subgroups equally as important, and oh my God, what did Kendrick Lamar just say? Where the hypocrites at? Who feels their community's the only one relevant or something of that nature? Who really thinks your community is the only one relevant? Like, who are you? So yeah, I had another learned lesson over the time. Clear communication, open, transparent communication prevents misunderstanding and promotes effective cooperation. Anybody on those effective collaborative tips?
No, I think what you just said. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna echo what you said. Like I think I've fallen into it. Like my advocacy issue is the most important thing in the planet, and I think that's why people get. I see people get frustrated that they're like, I've emailed this person twice or 3 times. I'm like, do you know how many emails that person probably gets? Like, have you tried calling them? Or I think that there's a lot of people that fall into that. I mean, me included, but I think that's a huge thing that you just mentioned there, because if you can take a step back and realize the flood of noise and information that people get on a daily basis, being more patient with it is, because I've seen people cut people off because they haven't returned an email or a phone call, and I'm like, you can't.
None of this is about you. Don't take any of this personal. And like we just mentioned, we're all human beings. I don't know what Derek is going through. I don't know what he went through yesterday. You don't know what I went. You don't know. Yesterday, I was attending a funeral service of a grandparent. I'm not bringing that to the meeting, but yet I'm bringing that to the meeting. If I didn't return your email yesterday, maybe I was ill. Maybe I wasn't in a good headspace. One of my business partners today, we had a meeting this morning, and she said she's going to disconnect after 11. She's not feeling good. She needs the rest of the day off. Understand that, but that was communicated with me. Those things that aren't from other people, you just don't take your emotions off your sleeve. It's nothing. It's not against you. Keep working.
Yeah. I think that I think that, yeah, going with that, it's like very easy to take things personally, and it's very easy to take things as something you did or didn't do. And I think that what we do when we force ourselves to believe that our whatever our lane is the most important and most crucial, that then continues that thriving in the community of like trauma porn, and like whose trauma is the worst, who's the best, who's the best of the worst, like, or who's the worst of the best, whatever, however you want to put it, and who needs this. That's because we're all in this like crab bucket trying to fight for certain funding versus collaboration, where if like, okay, where if I see where you intersect with me, this is you're focused on housing insecurity over here, but you're focused on mental health over here. Okay, well, where do they intersect, and where do they connect, and where are they the same, and where are they different? And then my passion becomes your passion, because we see that they're intersected, and they're not, and it's not, once again, me against you. But we feel like that on purpose, because if we're not out here fighting for this funding, if we're not out here tearing each other down on a system versus a community-based level, if we're not out here fighting, then we're out here collaborating, which then means that like now we're all on the same page, and now we can actually be effective, right? And so we have to remember who, like, the bigger, I'm not gonna say who, but I'm gonna say, like, we have to remember the bigger picture of like who's really the enemy and like who is not, right? But
Yeah.
like if I think the system, and then my
Right.
idea of the system, and now I'm supposed to collaborate with the system, so
Right.
like I have to, as a community liaison, as a community advocate, as a lived experience expert, as somebody in this field, now I have to be willing to step outside of what you guys were just talking about, my personal feelings, my personal self, my personal experience, and now I have to be able to step into who's really trying to turn me against the people that are actually trying to do the same thing that I'm doing. Maybe it's for the SEALs versus like people that are dealing with mental health, but still at the end of the day, what do I want? I want the community to be better. I want the next generation to be okay. I want things to be all right. And the basis of that is humanity, right? And so instead of trying to subculture everything and subtitle everything, humanity is what we as advocates and people that are trying to do better for the next person and for ourselves is really, that's our base foundation. So we can get to that and have discussions around that. We're then all eventually on the same page, but there's a lot of work until we can actually get there, because it forces us to step outside of ourselves and step outside of what our purpose and our passion is. Now I got to be okay with caring about why something is important to you as well, versus me trying to convince you why this should be important to you.
Right. So, how do we overcome those barriers to collaboration?
These conversations.
These conversations, for sure. And like, yeah, just the things that we're bringing up, and, you know, because I'm sure we've all experienced them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You know, common barriers include a lack of trust, resource constraints. You mentioned that already. Before the slide, yes. Communication gaps, and then also we talked about, you know, some of those so the biggest communication gap, I feel, is the failure to communicate in the first place, and just assuming, you know, and especially we talked about the non-returning of emails, specifically that I'm dealing with some politicians, and I email, and this particular politician did not respond, sent me to a staffer, and then I could internalize that and say, oh, it's anti-me. Do you know how many emails this person got? How many people are trying to meet with? You don't think about all the hundreds of people.
I was just about to say, I ain't even nobody, and I got 50,000 unread emails in my Gmail app. So like, what?
And then
but don't take it personal.
And then emails, text messages, direct messages on the social media, like so many ways. I'm sorry. And another real life issue. Just I have somebody, a young gentleman that's starting a nonprofit, and he was reaching out to me about a year ago when I really wasn't in a good headspace. A year and a half ago, wasn't in a good headspace. I gave him some advice, but he felt he wanted me to jump in and help him and push the line. I didn't have that. I didn't have that capacity to do that. Nothing personal against him. I wasn't good. And so now that it's down the line, and it's like, thumbs down shit on Armand. Like, man, I'm actually sorry. I hope you the best for you. But yeah, my lack of communication, my lack of, jumping on board is not personal. Sorry, I keep bringing up these are real life situations. Yeah. So I can only use those, okay? Because these are things that really are happening. But strategies to overcoming barriers include building relationships, aligning resources, establishing clear roles and responsibilities, and promoting open dialogue. And realize you can do all those things and still have issues. Because we are all individuals. And just because we're having this conversation and grown to a level of understanding doesn't mean the next person has. So understand their lack of understanding too. Don't take that personal.
Yeah. Anything? I think too, real quick, before my phone's probably going to die on you guys, but if it does, I really appreciate this conversation and you allowing me on. And I just wanted to add on, as you guys were talking about don't take things personal. I thought of the book, The Four Agreements, because that's one of the agreements. Yes. Highly suggest that as a reading material for anybody of any background. But I think that goes along with before, huh?
Who's the author?
Miguel.
It's okay.
Miguel, I don't know. Just type in for G-O-O.
I was gonna say, I think he's messing with you.
Sorry for interrupting. You were on the flow.
Now my phone's probably gonna crap out right now. But I just want to say that I think first and foremost, before having any of these conversations as a community, I think that before we do anything, I don't care if it's community collaboration, if we're talking about how to cook, if we're talking about how to be the best at anything or how to do something at our best, we have to turn to ourselves and be willing to first and foremost be at least on some type of healing something. I don't care how small, how little it is every single day, how much of a centimeter you take a step forward. But if we're not working on ourselves at all times, no collaboration with any other human being in any capacity is ever going to work, because we're going to be not willing. I can't even be willing to step outside of myself because I'm not even working on myself. And so I think that having those conversations about how important it is for people to be working on them as well as be working on their passions and their purposes, and how to best do that effectively with the next person. Interpersonal relationships can't work until you have a personal relationship with yourself. And so I think that is going to always be like the fourth, before we talk about how we help other people, it's that cliche of like, what are you doing for yourself? Because how am I supposed to teach the next person how to work effectively with me if I don't even know how to work effectively with me? Wow. So I think that's super important to be talking about, as well as we talk about resources and effectiveness and collaborating with systems. Why do I feel how I do about these systems? Can I work on healing that before I try to get mad at the system that's in place? Like, am I willing to work on that? Or am I not? And addressing ourselves is going to be super important with that to work in any collaboration.
Excellent point.
Yeah, great point.
Okay, guys, I have 1%. It was great to talk to you guys. It's about to die.
All right, Jamie, we love you. All
right,
love Jamie. You guys.
Love you
have
too.
A good day. Talk to you guys later.
All right, later, girl.
Bye.
All right, so we've got the role of technology in facilitating collaboration. So this is actually really good, and for me, it's like I have to constantly look at the different systems that I'm using to track relationships and just track everything. And it can get overwhelming, right? Like, I'm at a point right now where I have like way too many placeholders for how to keep track of community collaborations, right? I've got a system called Insightly. I've got a platform called Asana. So I think for me, it's looking at what's going to be, just on an ongoing basis, right? Like, one thing fit at one point for community collaboration. Whereas now, honestly, right now, I need to go back to the books and see, because I think I'm missing some connections. I'm missing some, staying in communication with certain people, right? There's got like, I got my tops, right? Like, I got Armand, and I've got the other top people that I connect with on an ongoing basis, but there's a plethora of people, right? And I think it kind of full circle goes back to, not to divert a little bit, but really, like, if we're talking about getting like an advocacy circle going or something like that, I don't know, because I'm finding that and feeling that I can't really 100% do it all on my own right now, right? There's just so many people that I want to connect with, but I just can't reach everybody. But I think that this is smart because, you know, technology can really provide that, right? Some sort of technology, right? So, you know, not having anything to track, you know, that would probably put me back like 10 steps. So I'm grateful that I have that under my belt. But for me, yeah, I'm looking at, you know, even at any of these platforms like Teams, Slack, I've used all of this. But I'm just looking at what for me is going to be the next step and next level with technology to keep track of all the community connections. Cause like I said, I certainly want to be connecting with a lot more people, but I just don't, I don't have the bandwidth, and I'm looking at what to do next. Yeah.
I'm into technology, but it's still like I'm still Flintstone in the way of my methodology and what I do.
Okay.
Like I'm familiar with Microsoft Teams, Slack, Google Workspace, even Chat GPT. Now you can collaborate on projects with people. Canva, you can collaborate. Technology's made it easy for us to collaborate. Instagram posts, I can invite 4 collaborators now. We can all share that post. Like all they're pushing for a collaboration. Got it. I try to use it, but it's not natural for me to do. But I just want to throw a tip out. You know, I'm a firm believer in relationships and maintaining relationships. And like you have a hierarchy of people that you may want to be in contact with more. What I do is I went through my contact list and I created a list of maybe 300 people that I wanted to stay in contact with, even if it was not necessarily a need or an ask, just to keep that communication. So I divided that list up into 4 for the 4 weeks. And every Monday, I start my Monday off that morning and I text that group of people. So there's a once a month tap in every month. So it's called my VIP contact. And it's family, some family members on there. There's some, you know, different people in different spaces in my life, but I want to make sure I say hello. So every Monday, and it's easy, and it might be a group not a group chat. They get individual messages, but it ends up being really fast. And you have just that happy Monday. Just wanted to say hello. Hope you have an amazing week. And you might get to some people on that list, and you're like, oh shoot, I do have a message specifically for that person, and you change it up, but you have that common message, and you're staying on their mind. And then because I didn't want to be that person where I only reached out to this funder or these people only when it's time for raising money. You know, I just wanted to say hello. Have a great week. Bye.
Now, how many people do you do that with, Ron? Is it
there's about 300. There's about 300 between the 4 weeks.
Okay. So are you splitting up like 300 divided by 4?
Yes,
and then doing
correct.
It that way? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So then you end up having 4 lists of whatever that number is. And then once a year, I've been doing this for a few years now. And once a year, I do an audit on my life on New Year's. And some people get removed from the list and some people get added.
So, okay. No, that's
draft season.
Yeah, that's smart.
That's a great idea in terms of because we all struggle to, you know, maintain those relationships when we're not communicating directly about something specific.
Right.
And that's such a great idea. I love that.
Thank you. I like it. It's worked. I just wanted to share it with you all. It's proven fruitful over the years. It just, you know, and then you'll get those people you won't even know. Like we talked earlier about, you don't know what the next person is going through. And you send that one encouraging message that day. I've had people call me crying. Like, how did you know I needed to hear this? Like, that's the luck of the draw. It's life's on you. So, and we all go through it. So you never know.
Yeah, that's great. Real quick, Derek, do you have any tips for technology with facilitating collaboration?
Not so much tips. It's one of the things that I've experienced. It kind of can be a challenge is that everybody has their own ideas in terms of you work with collaboratively. And it's important to have, for example, software that you know you can file share, you know, between organizations. I've struggled with that different times where, you know, somebody has a specific software platform that doesn't translate well with others. And we're talking typically with government entities versus non-government sort of thing, where it can become really challenging at times when, sending reports and reading different files and whatnot to issue reports. That's one of the things that I've struggled with at times, is trying to get files transferred into a cohesive manner that we can uh, across software platforms, sort of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Definitely our challenges, and all we got to figure out a way, figure out what's best and what works best for you. I'm looking at Slack, Google Workspace, and right now WhatsApp. My WhatsApp is the number one platform for that I'm using now, and I was not anti WhatsApp before, but I never had a need for it. But now all of a sudden, I have to get used to it, and yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I use WhatsApp too. It's good.
Measuring the impact of collaboration. Evaluating outcomes of collaboration can help in understanding its effectiveness. Tools like logic models, outcome harvesting, more technology, and most significant change can be used to assess the impact you make necessary adjustments. So there are tools to measure your collaborations, the work you're doing with other folks. Personally, I just lean towards my own, just what I see, what I feel, what's the energy like, and you just try to make your next move your best move. Do I need to remain? Not all collaborations are meant forever. They say there's a reason or a season, and the season changes, and we may not be collaborative partners anymore, or the reason we collaborated doesn't exist anymore, or that grant, that team, we're working on this particular grant together. So be okay with be okay with moving on. It's like a relationship. Sometimes you be okay with moving on.
Yeah, nothing really to add to this, but I need to get better at this, looking at, evaluations, because I think too often I just get lazy, honestly, and just, say the work, I just want people to trust that the work's getting done. But that always doesn't work out. So I need to get better at looking at bringing in stuff like this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Conclusion and way forward. Amanda, what is our conclusion?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was a great discussion today. I know it was a smaller group, but it was, a rich conversation. I think for me, I really am looking at this, how can we, like, a call for advocates? I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about that. That's the biggest takeaway for me. And I really think that could impact the collaboration between systems and CBOs if we're all, looking at what are we doing as advocates and what are we doing as being a liaison to not only systems, but the people that we serve in our CBOs. I don't have all the answers, but I see like a link for that, because I know for me, right, I'm usually an independent contractor with each project. And although it's great to collaborate with the teams that I'm on with each project, kind of to Jamie's point, like sometimes I'm just like my own advocate within each project, but I don't, even though I talk to you, Armand, all the time, it's not like, looking at what are we actually dealing with? What do we need to, work on, or what can we work on together? So that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from today.
Yeah, and I ditto what you said, but I also, with the curriculum, I'm launching the Walk With Me Impact Youth Mentoring Curriculum, and part of the package for people who are utilizing the curriculum, we have a mentor support group monthly for the mentors that are using this group, because I know how important it is for those mentors to get support, advice from other mentors that have gone through similar situations. But now, looking from this conversation, looking at the bigger picture, just advocates and working in community service, period, and how much the need is to support each other. So I'm speaking into existence. I don't want another task right now on my list.
I don't either, but I see it as a value.
It's needed. Bring in some professional, counselors every now and then to walk through some stuff with us, and just to build a camaraderie of people across the globe that do this work. And, so because like, I think it was Jamie that said earlier, we think that a bunch of people are out here doing the work we are, and they're really not. We're really the few.
Yeah, and that was sobering for me because I do fall in that trap of like there's a lot of people doing this. So yeah, more to come. I made a note about it. But what about you, Derek?
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that what Armand you just talked about is a manual or a resource for those of us out there that are doing that advocacy work. I mean, I know when I got involved in this about 2017, I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I was a 60-year-old grandfather, self-employed in the truck repair business, that a father came to me with a need. His daughter was missing. And I was an unwitting advocate from that moment on. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I continue to make those, but with my heart's in the right place, because there was really not a lot of guidance for people like me. Now, I've since found some mentors in the movement, right, and I'm really grateful for that. But any time that you can provide guidance and support and rejuvenation just to help us refuel our fire and our passion, that's an incredible investment in all of the advocacy movement. I think it's such an incredible thing. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
And Derek, would you mind putting your contact information in the chat? I don't know if that I have it, so I can put you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's ours. Do you have our reach? Well, all of you on board today. All of you, Derek. We'll send an email with our contact information, and let this be the beginning of your support group right here. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Far from perfect, but we are striving towards perfection and here to help. And next, so we'll be back August 16th for part 5 of the conversation. Youth focused, fun. Youth focused, community based organizations working with systems. I know a lot of those great people. Time to connect with them and bring them on, and let's have a conversation focused on guiding our young folks and collaborating with systems to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to grab some youth for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Derek. Thank you, Amanda, Jamie. Thank you. Another great dialogue. And like I said, we see us. We are the few and the proud, and there will be others that will be able to see this and on their own time and get and mad they didn't have they were like, oh, I know somebody told me they watched one of our videos and they were talking to us as if we could hear them. I said, awesome. But yeah, we're doing the work. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and look forward to furthering this conversation.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.